This episode was co-produced with the Swiss Entrepreneurs Foundation, a non-profit organization which aims to support startups and promote the Swiss ecosystem capable of commercializing innovative technologies. Over the next few weeks, we will be releasing a total of 6 bonus episodes. These episodes will focus on the Swiss Entrepreneurs Foundation's Upscaler program, designed to help rapidly growing startups, as well as on the SWESA, the Swiss Entrepreneurs and Startup Association, which represents all companies and institutions that want to further optimize the economic policy framework in Switzerland. To find out more about the Swiss Entrepreneurs Foundation, visit swissef.ch. And now, on with the show.
We have a very high level of comfort and also of money, and that makes us very risk averse.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and hands-on learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Sylvan.
Judith, a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody.
You are a member of the Swiss Parliament and also a co-initiator of the Parliamentary group Startups and Entrepreneurship. And today we want to know everything about the startups on the political landscape. As I said, you are active in the Swiss Parliament and you also deal with a variety of topics there. So what role do startups actually play and also entrepreneurs in that regard?
Well, I think startups are basically innovation drivers. They poke at establishment, at economical establishment. They disrupt business models and force us into change and into agility. So everything that we do not have in politics is what startups have. And I think that is doing us a lot of good, and it challenges us and it keeps us on our toes.
Absolutely. And in that regard, you mentioned innovation. I think innovation is a key driver of our prosperity that we have here in Switzerland. Do you think that the startups are the important enablers of that innovation, or are they just a part of it?
Well, I do think they are enablers. I wouldn't think that they are the only ones, because we've got an established industry. They've been very innovative over the past decades. So lots of respect for them as well. But society changes, technology changes, and I believe that we do need the startups to drive innovation, because other continents, other countries have made huge progresses here. And we have to be very, very careful not to lose track.
And that was probably also the motivation that led you with other politicians to co-initiate the Parliamentary group for Startups and Entrepreneurship. So what was the main driver, the main motivation to launch this initiative?
Well, my engagement for startups was a bit accidental, actually. And it dates back years ago when I was in the Canton Parliament, and startups had an issue with the tax authority back then, because the authorities decided to change the way they would tax investment rounds. And they pushed some startups even almost into bankruptcy. That's when they asked me to support them. And that's when I got in touch with the whole ecosystem of the startups. That was totally new to me, And I realized back then what role that startups are playing in our society, in our economy with regards to innovation. And that's when my engagement starts, and it continued years and years over. And then I teamed up with my colleague, Andrew Silberschmidt. You might have known of him, obviously. He's got lots of reach. And back in 2019, we teamed up because he was engaged as well, being a startup founder himself, because we thought that we would be stronger together, obviously.
Makes sense.
And that has motivated us to create that parliamentary group when we both were elected a bit more than a year ago. And we created that group and also collected support from other political parties, because the broader we are, the more support we have from every party, the stronger we will be.
Absolutely. I just wonder, you mentioned that you dove into this startup world for the first time when the tax issue came up. What was your first impression? Because I feel that sometimes this is a bit of a bubble by itself. So I just wonder, what were your first reactions, your first impressions?
Well, to be honest, I thought it was slightly bit chaotic because I got in touch with that problem, with that tax issue, and asked, well, who's in charge with the startup ecosystem? Who's looking after that? And in fact, startups, they were not very well organized. So there was one association there, and they were very helpful. But it was split over several groups of business angels and individual founders who were personally concerned. So it took me quite a while to figure out who was my sparring partner.
And then you actually also tackled the tax issue. What have been the most fundamental contributions now from the Parliamentary group so far over the past year to the Swiss entrepreneurship landscape?
Well, I think the most obvious issue is to raise awareness, to be frank. I mean, we've got a series of problems that we would like to address, but politics are very slow. And first of all, we need to succeed in creating this awareness and making people in politics realize how important startups are for our country and our economical prosperity. So I'm finding myself in that position, in that main challenge to create awareness. And within this awareness, then we have to tackle one issue after the other. But I believe that our first and biggest success in this 1 year that we've been active is really to win support of other political parties.
Got it. I really like that approach because you have multiple supporters across all parties in Switzerland, basically. And I think that's very, very good and very important. At the same time, I can also imagine that it can be challenging because at first, many people say, yes, startups are important. We would like to support them. But then to actually tackle and work on issues, then it can be more tricky to get their support, I could imagine. So that it's easy to get a buy-in first, but then to also get the final delivery, the final support that you need to push new things forward on a political level, that can be a bit more tricky. How do you experience that?
Yeah, that is tricky, but then that is tricky for any challenge and for any problem that you want to choose to resolve in politics. Also, what we realized is maybe we want to change something, some little thing, and realize that there are other lobbies with other interests, and they are much, much stronger than the startup ecosystem or the parliamentary group. So convincing those lobbies and those established economies that they would have something to win as well in this change, that is very difficult. And that is why we need that very broad support in every party. This is not an issue between left or right wing or conservatives or progressive. This is an issue. This is a prosperity for the whole country. And I think again, the best thing that we can do is to bring startups and politicians together and discuss real problems and real daily topics for these companies and for these young businesses to make people realize what it's really about.
Right. In that regard, I always hear that there might be some misconceptions that startup founders have regarding Swiss politics and also regarding the government. What comes to mind if you think about these misconceptions? Are there any that you noticed?
Well, yes. I believe that many people in politics, but also out there in the street, think that startup founders just want to make quick money. They just need a laptop and a co-working desk somewhere, and they want to become billionaire within a couple of years. So yes, I believe there is a bit of this misconception around, and we have to create awareness around how much work it really is to found a startup and to create that business model and to get investors convinced of this business model and then to scale up. Yeah.
Got it.
Again, a question of awareness.
Right. And I'm really glad to see you working on that. I think that's fantastic. Let's also talk about the other issues. all the hurdles that startups face in Switzerland today, what's the one that speaks to you the most? The one that you think that needs the most fixing right now, the most pressuring issue or challenge for startups these days?
Well, it's a very large issue, and I think it's talent. Talent, talent, talent. It's the same for the whole digitization industry, you know. We need the best people for the startups, the best ones. However, talent in Switzerland is very expensive. And also there is a competition, you know, because we've got very established economies and businesses in Switzerland, very strong companies also in the digitization industry. And obviously there is a war for talent amongst them. It's very difficult for startups to stay competitive in this environment.
And on top of that, it's also not that easy to hire people from other countries in Switzerland, especially outside of the European Union, right?
It's very difficult, in fact. I mean, it's the same for every industry, but in fact, startups have a larger need for people coming from abroad because of the experience, because of the risk appetite that we do not have in the same regards in Switzerland. So yes, we do need to tackle that problem. And it's actually one of the actual topics that we're looking at in the next meeting that we will have mid-March.
Fantastic. So I also wonder, how does now the Parliamentary Group work to overcome this issue, this challenge? What are your next steps? What are your timeline beyond the March meeting? Like, what do you have planned on that issue?
Yeah, I mean, we have to understand we're in politics here. So it's a very long-term work, and we have to invest our energy on a very continuous basis. So it's very unlikely to have quick wins there. We need to stay realistic. So what we will have to do is to make claims with regards to that talent approach, to how, what is our understanding of recruiting talents in Switzerland as a little island in the middle of the world? What is our understanding of remunerating this talent? You know, so I'm coming to, share-based compensation systems that have lots of difficulties in Switzerland. So we're looking at that as well. We have a very continuous way of working in this parliamentary group. So we sit together every session. A session, you know, is when Parliament comes together 4 times a year for 3 weeks. We work together. We bring startups together with the parliamentary member, but also with the administration. And one step after the other, we make claims and continuous claims and even more claims and try to find solutions together.
We know interruptions are rude, so we'll make it quick. The more positive ratings we have, the more people we can reach. So if you want to hear more from the Swisspreneur team, give our show a rating on Apple Podcasts. It only takes a minute.
In that regard, also an often quoted idea was the so-called startup visa. Is there anything that you can also share on that topic?
So yes, we have prepared together with some allies. We have prepared a claim that we would like to make in March and bring it into the parliament, you know. But then again, we have this is brought into the administration. We need to be very patient as well. But yes, we have a claim going into this direction about a startup visa. It's very concrete already.
Great. So what would actually change if this can pass later down the road? So what would change for startups if we get a startup visa?
Well, ideally, what we would like is to create a special contingency for startups to recruit people from abroad, from outside the EU, and also on a fast track system. So that would be the ideal way, because startups obviously don't have the same resources to access this complicated process of recruiting talent outside of the EU. So it's about a special contingency just for startups and also a fast track system to access that.
Got it. I think this is really the most pressuring issue that you're working on. So I'm really glad to see that this issue is in good hands. And if you now look back a bit to 2020, There were a total of 2 billion invested in Swiss startups. However, nowadays we still don't have that high of amount of unicorns or large exits in Switzerland. From your perspective, is that something that should actually worry us? Because then you could also say, all the political effort that you put into the startups, the money that actually flows in there is just not well invested because there are no large unicorns or exits. What's your take on this?
Yeah, of course it should worry us. Of course I want unicorns too, with a Swiss cross on their corn, Of course it should worry us. And it shows also a problem, and this is the capacity in Switzerland to scale successful business models, out from the Switzerland into the world, because we've got a very small market in Switzerland, so we do need to scale. And this obviously is difficult out of Switzerland, and we have to change the way we think about entrepreneurship. That we have to think big, we have to have large visions. Also, if we don't manage to get there and create our own unicorns, we will always have difficulties to recruit talent and to attract investors here. I mean, we're in good shape with investors, but with a very large investment rounds like 50 or 100 millions, we still have to find investors from abroad, and we need to create more tractions here in Switzerland. And for that, we need to have our own unicorns.
Yeah, fully agree. That's like the role model that you want to have that then motivates more people to pursue the same path, right?
Correct.
So you mentioned the large financing rounds, but also talent before obviously plays into that we need to get that better at these things in order to build more unicorns. Is there anything else missing from your perspective to get there?
Well, I think we have very, very good universities. We also have investors. But again, I'm finding that in Switzerland, everybody is living in a fantastic comfort zone. The comfort zone in Switzerland is so large and so high. We have a very high level of comfort and also of money. And that makes us very risk averse. Even young talent, very good talent, they are likely to go work in a large company than to create their own startup and take that risk and put skin into the game. So yes, this is probably due to our very high level of life and of financial availability. But I believe that's one of our main problems with regards to innovation.
I think lowering our living standard is probably not an option. So what else could we do to get there?
I don't think so.
To motivate more young people to actually pursue entrepreneurship as a career path, is there anything that we can do to support or actually empower that?
Well, we're back into that unicorn discussions now.
Right.
We need some unicorn. We need to show that we're capable of getting there and how attractive an entrepreneurial life can be. So yes, it's a circular question, which is why we have to start somewhere, and push our startups and encourage that startup ecosystem to again engender this appetite for risk and for success.
Now, let's also look at the learnings. You've been active in the Parliamentary group for startups and entrepreneurship for a bit more than a year. What learnings have you made over these 12 months? Maybe from plans that didn't work out as planned or that took longer. Are there any learnings that you can share with us today?
Well, it's not exactly learning. It's something that I knew in advance. It's that politics is very slow. There are no quick wins in politics, and you have to repeat and repeat the same things over again all the time. And we have a clash of urgency. Obviously, startups have no time. That is one of the startups have no time and no money. right? And politics have both. And we have a clash here. And this is why we need to create awareness also among startups that they have to be very patient, that there are no quick wins in politics, but also to encourage them to get engaged into political issues. When startups say, hey, we don't have the time for getting engaged into politics, we really need to encourage them to talk to us and to keeping up the dialogue, because we can only manage the issues and make progress together.
Right. And how can or should startups get involved in politics? Do you have any recommendation for that?
Well, again, obviously, is to raise their voice within this parliamentary group, but also with the help of SWESA, this organization that helps us administer the parliamentary group. And they also have this pretty large by now association of startups, and it acts like a funnel of issues and of voices and concentrates these issues and problems within the parliamentary group. So yes, I believe this is a very strong way of working together.
Perfect. So that's a good call to action to all the startups out there.
Absolutely.
Now, we know you have the startup visa and just in general the talent pool or the talent issue at hand that you're working on with the meeting coming up in March. What else can we expect from you and the Parliamentary Group for Startups and Entrepreneurship over the next 12 months? What are your other goals that you want to tackle?
Well, I think that we've discussed numerous times, and I mentioned it is the way we remunerate talent in startups, because this share-based remuneration is something that startups need because they have obviously less cash. But also if we do that, we also need to find ways to make this share-based compensation attractive. And at the time being, it's not particularly attractive, because talents get this share-based remuneration, have to pay tax on that, but don't know whether they will ever see as a single franc of this share-based remuneration. So we have to increase the attraction of the tax system around that.
And yeah, if that happens, everything will fit nicely together, because then if you make more unicorns in Switzerland, you have bigger payouts and then more money flooding back, and everybody's happy and we get a stronger and bigger ecosystem.
I would hope so, yes.
So now we answered all the questions about, the parliamentary group, but we also have some rapid fire questions to learn more about Judith as a person. Are you ready?
I am.
So the first one is, what was your job as a teenager, your summer job?
I had numerous summer jobs, but the one that I would like to mention here was the cleaning job that I had in summer, spending a whole summer cleaning school buildings and cleaning about 200 toilets or something like that. So I started very small.
We all have to start somewhere, right?
That's right.
What are you most proud of in your life?
Oh, definitely my 2 sons. They're awesome.
Good point. Then smartphone, tablet, or laptop?
Smartphone.
Easy choice.
Yeah.
Lake or mountains?
Lake, definitely. If not even sea.
Perfect. And the last one, Zurich or Bern?
Oh, Zurich. I like Bern, but I love Zurich. I'm literally in love with Zurich. Such a vibrant city, even now. I think I'm never going to leave this city.
Then you found your place.
I found my big love.
Perfect. Hey, Judith, thank you so much for talking to us today. It was a pleasure to learn more about the political landscape and what you're working on. And thank you so much for the support for the whole startup ecosystem.
Thank you for having me.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.